I'm having a good day.
Yeah? What?
Yep.
What's so good about it?
It's fine. It's finally happened. It's finally begun. The first episode of Chainsaw Man the anime is out.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Have you watched it yet?
I have not, because it came out while I was at work, and now I'm doing this with you. I'm gonna watch it with Sean later.
Nice.
But with that being said, the animation studio released the new opening and ending songs and animations, and the new opening gave me a pretty good chuckle.
Yeah? Why's that?
Well, first of all, the animation is insane. Like, it's gorgeous. It looks crazy good. But also, like I talked about in my video about Chainsaw Man, movies are a pretty, like, important symbol throughout the story. And as if to reflect that, the intro has a bunch of movie references kind of hidden in it, or not really hidden. They're just kind of obvious if you know to look for them. And there was one in particular that was kind of like, this feels familiar, but I can't figure out why. And I realized it after watching it for like the 6th time.
Okay.
They put a fucking Big Lebowski reference in the new opening.
Oh, nice. Nice. What was the reference?
It was Jesus rolling his ball with that very, very unique stance, and another character's off to the side polishing his ball like Jesus does.
Nice.
That made me very happy. It's like a crossover of two things that I really enjoy quite a bit, you know?
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to watch that later. I've been getting people on my Discord talking about it all day, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So the hype is just building. Okay,
you haven't heard any spoilers or anything?
Well, I mean, there's not really much a spoiler. I already know this. There's not really much to spoil. I already know the story, but no one's like posted screenshots that I wouldn't want to see, at least.
Okay, have you like heard any reviews on it yet?
Well, I put out a post on my YouTube community tab asking what people thought of it, and everyone just says that they think it's awesome. I have heard somewhat mixed perceptions. Apparently there was a bit of 3D CGI used throughout it, and I've heard some mixed feelings on that, but I also know that anime fans tend to just automatically hate when something is done in 3D, whereas I take a much more not angry approach to it, where like, you know, it's good if it's done, if it's okay if it's done well.
You're a little more open-minded about it.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yes. I want to make a video about it at some point. The problem with like anime and 3D animation is that frequently anime, when they try to implement 3D animation, they're still trying to like make it appear 2D, and in their efforts to do that, it's often made it look worse than it could either way. Like, you know, something you see when you think of something like Disney movies, for example, you look at a 2D Disney movie and a 3D Disney movie, and the art style is very different because those two, like 2D versus 3D, kind of require different art directions.
Yeah.
And the problem with doing that in anime is that more often than not, we see them not altering the art direction or art style at all, and instead trying to make it appear 2D when it isn't. And it for a long time, especially when it first started becoming a thing, it looked really fucking terrible. And like certain anime series have just been like completely ruined by its implementation. Like, you know, the most famous example is probably the 2016 adaptation of Berserk, another thing I've done a video on. Just absolutely fucking atrocious 3D animation in that anime. But we've seen over the years, you know, them find ways to adapt it and use it in much more intelligent ways. Specifically, there's a studio that I like a lot called Trigger Studios, who really uses 3D animation a lot, but they do it in a way that doesn't like take away from where they are using 2D animation, I guess is how I would put it. So it really depends on its implementation. So if it's done well, I don't mind.
Okay. Nice. Well, I'm happy for you. I know you've been waiting for this.
Quite some time I've been waiting for this.
Hell yeah. So that's cool. You got anything else going on?
Not really. I'm working on a new video. Just the usual. How about you?
Let's see. Oh, we have an update in the Noisy Neighbor saga.
You killed them all.
Yes. End of story. Done.
They deserved it.
They're in my freezer now.
Alongside your like 20 pounds of brisket.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, they're right there with the brisket. I had to make sure to label them so I didn't get them confused.
But you are gonna try a little piece, right?
Right. You gotta go a little Dahmer. But you can never go full on Dahmer.
You never want to go full Dahmer.
Right. Oh man. We had to get relevant with that for a second. I like it. Oh, people.
Speaking of, have you been watching that show?
No, I haven't, but I know everyone's like losing their shit over it.
In a good way or a bad way? I haven't really seen too much of it. I know I want to watch it. I just haven't found the time.
I think from what I've seen is like in a good way. Like I think the actor, like the actor that plays Jeffrey Dahmer, I think everyone is saying like he does such a good job that they like can't see him any other way now. So
damn, that's quite a compliment, but also probably not a great thing for the long run. I don't know.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so it seems like the acting is probably really good. And I mean, it's based on real events, so it's not like they had to like completely generate a plot. So
right.
I'm sure the storyline's probably pretty good. So yeah, seems like people are liking it.
Yeah, I want to check that one out at some point. But anyway, your neighbors.
Yeah, so it was the same. It would be like just batshit crazy, and then I'd have like a day where I didn't really notice anything or like much of anything. Nothing noteworthy at least. And so I was starting to kind of like waver a little bit and be like, well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. And then I had like 4 days of hellfire come down, including like this entire last weekend. It was like all day Saturday and Sunday. And like both days I had like enough, and I did like the bang on the ceiling with a broom handle thing.
Classic.
And I swear that just like spurred it on, and it just got worse after that.
Oh, damn.
So I was like, all right, that's enough. I got home from work yesterday and the office was still open. And, I was kind of like nervous because I was like, how much explaining am I going to have to do other than like, oh, my neighbor's kid runs? Like, I didn't know how in depth I was going to need to get with this.
Just play them an episode of the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. No, but I talked to the lady at the leasing office and she was like very understanding and said, now she used both of these terms, so I'm not exactly sure which one they either received or will receive. But she was like, all right, we'll send them a noise complaint. And then she also said a noise violation. So I don't know. I would assume that they're going to get like a warning and then we'll deal with it from there. But she was like, yeah, if you don't see an improvement in a week, come back and we'll proceed with further steps. So yeah.
Okay.
That was pretty
good. Sounds positive. Sounds like it's moving in the right direction. Hopefully.
Yeah. I left the leasing office, got to my apartment, and it was going on, but like whatever. Like I didn't think that they were like instantly going to get a notice. I don't know I don't know how this is going to be delivered to them, if it's like an email or like something taped to their door or a phone call or
Sure.
maybe even snail mail. I don't know, because my apartments have like, not for anything like that, but sometimes they will snail mail stuff. So I'm really not sure how or when they're gonna get it, but
they're gonna get it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it seemed like the normal noisy neighbors yesterday. And then it was going on again this morning. I had to get up pretty early. I was up at like 6 a.m. and yeah, it was going on like definitely at like 6:30. And then I got home from work today. It was about, I don't know, 4:45, I guess. And we were having some hellfire, but I'm going to give it through the weekend, because that's when it's always like the absolute worst, because it's like the entire day.
Okay, makes sense.
So we'll see how it is this weekend, and yeah, Monday will be a week from when I went to the office, so that's pretty good timing. So we'll see what happens with that.
Hopefully they are genuinely like taking it seriously and aren't gonna like just keep brushing you off.
Yeah. That's definitely the hope, but I mean, at least with the way the leasing office talked to me, until they show me otherwise, I have no reason not to believe them.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I'm feeling about it right now too. But you never know. That could be their policy to just be like super nice about it. I mean, speaking from my retail experience, I've certainly pretended to care more about a problem I was just going to lie to the customer about.
Right. And I know,
but I mean, the circumstances are different because they have to deal with you more than once.
Yeah, and I know that's like certainly a real possibility, but they were pretty cool about it, and they weren't just like, try and work it out with your neighbor or
play nice now, you hear?
Yeah. I thought it might be a little more difficult to get them to try to act on it even initially. So that's a pretty promising sign. So that's where we're at with that. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. I'm stoked to at least see where that goes.
Well, good. Hopefully it works out.
I'm hoping. I did pass the mom on Sunday. It had gotten really bad, and this was after I had like banged on the ceiling on 2 separate occasions, once on Saturday and twice on Sunday. And I was like, fuck it, I gotta get out. I gotta go for a walk. It was like fucking freezing here over the weekend. But I still just went out and walked around for a few minutes, like, 20, 30 minutes just to get away. And I was like kind of walking past the doorway as she was coming in with their dog. And so I was like, well, I'll just take another like lap around the building, because I didn't want to like directly confront her. And I not so quietly under my breath said stupid bitch as I walked by.
Jeez.
I mean, I'm fairly certain that she heard me. I don't think it was loud enough for her to understand what I said.
Okay.
But there was no one else around me, so she knows I directed something at her. Yeah, so that's the only other neighbor news that I've got. But Yeah. I mumbled stupid bitch under my breath as I walked by. So
damn. This is like the most aggressive I've ever seen you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you really need to experience it like firsthand to really get a grasp on this. And someone commented on one of our...
I saw that. I kept forgetting to bring that up.
Yeah, so someone commented on one of our episodes.
They brought up the idea of noise-canceling headphones.
Yeah, and I don't know if that person listens regularly or not, or if we know who that person is.
They're someone from my channel. They're one of my patrons.
Okay. So, I figured it was probably someone who listens reasonably regularly.
I mean, the fact that they referred to you as Mr. Nacho instead of like Mike suggests that they saw me as Captain Mac and you as the Breakroom Nachos guy, which I thought was very funny.
Yeah, I do like being called Mr. Nacho. That is pretty cool. Now I will say, if this was like an isolated thing or
only every now and then, like that's kind of what I was thinking too. Like if this wasn't like a persistent thing, that would be a totally valid solution.
Yeah, like if this was like, like once or twice a week for like 15 minutes the kids run around, then I would be being extremely unreasonable. But and noise canceling headphones would be at least an option at that point. But the fact that it's like all day every day. Actually, let me read you the documentation from Saturday and Sunday, because I kind of almost like, I was so annoyed and so delirious, I almost started doing it like in live tweet format.
Okay, this sounds exciting.
But yeah, no, real quick, just to finish up with that comment. No, that it's really not an option. Not when it's like all day, every day. You can't live in your own home wearing noise canceling headphones. That's not
it's
really not a solution.
It's not really a fair ask. It kind of goes along with like that whole debate of like, when you're living in an apartment, you should expect some noise. Like, yeah, he should, but there's also reasonable expectation of quiet.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have to wear noise canceling headphones all the time to just live comfortably in his home.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so Saturday, my entry is Saturday 10/8. Started before 8 a.m. I left for a while and returned home at 11 a.m. with no noise. The silence didn't last for long. Noon to 2:30 was filled with constant outbursts of running every couple minutes. After not hearing anything for a half hour, 3 p.m. brought a firestorm of nonstop pounding. Even with my TV on, it was so jarring that it kept scaring my dog. This continued without break until 3:55 p.m. At 4:15, the pounding resumed. 4:43, several loud bangs occurred, which sounded like a bowling ball being slammed into the floor. 5:26 to 5:33, the running continues. 5:50, running begins again. At 6:20 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore and had to leave my apartment for a while to get a break from the noise. Returned home at 7 p.m. while the running was still going on and lasted until about 7:25 p.m. So I guess maybe that's when I went out for the walk and had the run-in with her. I guess maybe it was Saturday. And then Sunday's entry was Sunday 10/9. Woke up at 7:30 a.m. to the pounding of running. Left to go to the gym at 8:30 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. Returned at 10:45 to the sound of nonstop running that lasted until 11:15. At 12:15, the running began again. By 12:55, jumping up and down was added to the nonstop running.
How does it get worse? Like, how does this kid have this much energy?
I don't know. I mean, they're fucking kids. They're like just like loaded with
I get that, but even then, like, parents let their kids run around to tire them out. This kid sounds like he's constantly running around. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe he was like such a problem child that they were like, oh, just go run around to tire him out. And then he fucking adapted.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 kids up there, but the parents have only mentioned the one.
Right, they've only mentioned the one, so I'm running on the assumption that it's, primarily at the very least, the one.
Yeah. At 2 p.m., it escalated more. Literally nonstop jumping, slamming into the floor, and scaring my dog for the second day in a row. There finally seemed to be a break in the noise around 2:30 p.m. Jumping resumed at 4:13, continued on and off until around 7 p.m.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that's what I had to deal with over the weekend. And I almost always have my TV on, at least for background noise. So it's always like over the volume of my TV. The worst it ever was, I had a box fan running. My TV was on. I had a load of laundry in the washing machine, one in the dryer, and my dishwasher was going, and I could still fucking hear it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so hopefully we have a fucking end to that saga. And it so far, I mean, aside from like the first half hour or so I've been home, this afternoon hasn't been too bad, but yeah, I mean, I've only been home now not even an hour and a half, so yeah. I guess we'll see. And, it usually does start winding down sometime between, I don't know, usually between like 6:30 and as late as 9:30, but I never really know when it's going to end, so, it could pop back up before the night's over with.
Shit sucks, man.
Yeah, shit does suck. But I do want to talk about something that doesn't suck. Mac.
My wife.
Zing. Classic. Everyone knows you're a big fan of the sweets, correct?
Sure am.
What's your favorite? I know you like cheesecake a lot, but what would you say is your favorite like dessert type treat?
Dessert type treat. Like, so I'm choosing a group of desserts that like are my favorite.
Yeah, so you could go with like cake or pie or ice cream or like popsicle or cookies.
It probably would be cake. I think cake, because there's so many different options.
Okay.
And it's like, I feel like cake isn't like generally, I mean, it depends on the cake, isn't like too super sweet, so you can like eat a good amount of it without feeling sick.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. I mean, outside of like the frosting, but yeah, like the base, like the
cake itself.
Yeah, the frosting is the accent. The actual cake part is not usually super, super sweet. Yeah. Okay. What are your thoughts on donuts?
Fucking love donuts. I mean, they're very similar to cake.
They are.
Well, I mean, okay, it depends on the donut.
It does. But I mean, excuse me. Regardless of the type, they are all still kind of somewhat similar to cake. Closer to cake than anything else. But I'm not a big fan of the sweets. I do like some cheesecake and like key lime pie, but you know, those are two that
Key lime
aren't
pie is so fucking good.
right. Those are two that aren't super sweet. And I like ice cream, but I do like a good donut every now and then. And it had been we got some noise going on from upstairs. I can hear the ceiling like creaking. Cool. And again, that's with earbuds in right now. So yeah, awesome. Back to the donuts. I knew this place existed, but I didn't realize that they like served food. And I'm curious to know if you've ever been there. It's a bakery supply store in your hometown. I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
I mean, it doesn't sound familiar just based on that loose description.
I mean, if you want to bleep out the name of the business, you can, but it's called Baker's Nook.
No, I've never been there. I don't think I've even heard of it.
Okay. I mean, it kind of goes through like it's on like the main road that goes through town. It's a little bit off to the west, like kind of as you're like leaving, like past downtown. So if you're headed west, you go past like that place that has like weddings and events and stuff. It's like over in that direction. But it's in like a little strip mall, and I thought it was just like bakery supply. Like they sell like sprinkles and cake pans and frosting, decorating stuff.
Sure.
So I never thought to go in there, but I saw someone post online that they had like really, really good donuts. And I was like, well, I'm not that far from there from work, like fairly regularly. So I was like, you know, one of these days I'll go check it out. And I went in on like a Friday. I had like a really light Friday a few weeks ago, maybe like 3 weeks ago. And they're only open from like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this was at like noon. And I walked in and I saw they had like the little like display counter like you'd see at like a bakery.
Yeah.
But it was empty. And I was like, are you guys like out of donuts? And they're like, oh yeah, we're all done for the day. And I was like, oh damn, I guess those go quick.
Must be good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess people like Friday is like a day that people bring in like donuts for the office. That's kind of like a thing.
Yeah.
But then the next Friday, I happened to be there, that area again. And again, I had a little bit of time, not quite as much as that other week, but I was like, it's a little earlier in the day. It was like around 11. And I was like, I'll take my chances. So I went in there, and granted, they only had like maybe like, I don't know, half of like one of their 2 display cases with donuts in it still. But I got a very epic donut. It was a buttercream sandwich donut.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm a fan of the sometimes they go by like raised donuts or yeast donuts as opposed to the cake. I like that like fluffier texture. And it was one of those. And it was like sliced in half. And it just had like a 1/2-inch thick layer of buttercream in the middle. And then it was like chocolate frosted on the top with like chocolate shavings on top. And it was fucking fantastic.
It sounds good.
Yeah. But I like did a little more of a deep dive. I looked at their website, and they like really don't even make much mention of the fact that they like have food. And I looked on their Yelp, and I saw a bunch of pictures of donuts, and they all looked really good. But I was like, I wonder if they have like a Facebook page. And they do, which they update like apparently like multiple times a day. And I guess they do other food, like they'll make like ribs and chili and stuff, which is so weird to me. But I guess I might have to grab some lunch one day. But yeah, apparently like Saturday mornings is like the time to go. So I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend or not, but one of these weekends I got to go in there at like 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday, because they do like a little video of their selection every Saturday, and they've got some pretty damn epic looking donuts in there. They got like a maple bacon, like buttercream, and which you can only get on Saturdays. They have like several different varieties of peanut butter filled donuts, depending on the week, which look fucking great. They've got like cookie dough filled.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And they mix them up each week. So yeah, I might have to go like multiple weeks in a row and like check this place out. That might have to be like an addition to my my annual like birthday like eat like shit tradition. Because normally I make up like 2 pounds of bacon and have a couple bottles of KBS, and that's usually like what I do for a meal either on or one of the days around my birthday. But I might have to throw like a fucking dozen donuts in there on that week. If I can get a hold of some of these like cookie dough filled donuts, because that sounds incredible.
It does. I'm wishing I had gotten a chance to try that before I left.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever make it back here to like visit any of your friends or family or whatever, just based on my experience of that one buttercream sandwich, I would say that's definitely somewhere to stop if you're back.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So
I'll go there first and then Steak and Shake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I thought maybe you would known about it since, like I said, it was in your town, but I can understand why, unless it had like spread through word of mouth, because I would never think that was a place that would sell donuts, and especially not other types of food, but I wouldn't think they would have any food. It just seems like a store.
If I had heard about it, I certainly would have tried it, but I'm not terribly observant when it comes to like looking out the window while I'm driving, because I'm trying to focus on the road and all. So
yeah, well, and I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, I wasn't even sure where it was. Like, I know the town reasonably well. Not so much that part of town, because like I said, that's already like west of downtown, and there's really not much past like that on that end of the city. Because then you start getting into like other like small towns and farm country and stuff. But yeah, I wasn't sure where it was, and then it was in like a little like strip mall next to a gas station.
I swear, you find the best places in like the most inconspicuous locations.
Yeah, you really do.
Like, I don't know if this will hold true for you per se, but like in my experience, this is true of two food groups: pizza and Chinese food. The shittier the place, the better the food.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. The same thing goes for like bar food too. usually like the biggest hole in the wall bars have like really good food. Either like a really good hamburger or even if it's just like basic bar food, like somehow they have a way of like deep frying like frozen French fries and mozzarella sticks that makes them like far superior to like, you know, whatever, like your Applebee's or Chili's or, you know, whatever sort of chain restaurant you go to. Those hole in the walls usually have great food. And yeah, you're right. Usually the sketchier it looks and the more likely you feel in danger or like you feel like you might get food poisoning,
the better it's going to be.
Yeah, the better it's going to be, man. It's just something about it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
if you're planning on opening a pizzeria or a Chinese food restaurant or a bar, make sure your place isn't too nice because it'll drag down the quality of your food.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, this I wasn't even gonna go here, but there was a story that came out a couple weeks ago that is very, very relevant to what we're talking about. I don't know if you're familiar, but in Detroit, there's a lot of Coney Islands, but there's a couple that are like the OG Coney restaurants, and I think they even like argue over like the fact that they claim that they both like invented the Coney or something like that. Whatever. They're both like, I don't know, I think close to like 100 years old, and they literally like share a wall. It's one of those classic stories where like one family started one restaurant and then like one of the family members like got pissed about something and started their own restaurant next door.
Oh, a tale as old as time itself.
Right. I feel like that's very classic in like the restaurant business. But I've been to both of them. I've on a couple occasions I've gone to both of them like back to back because I wanted to try them like as close to side by side as possible. So I went and like grabbed like a Coney and fries at one and then immediately went and got a Coney and fries at the other one. And I have a preference. And the one I like, I guess I'll say it, is Lafayette Coney. And American Coney Island is next door. Lafayette is like real sketchy inside. It looks kind of dirty. American, even though it's like pretty much just as old, they're I think within like a year of each other. They've definitely like updated it, and they've got like, you know, like more modern decorations. It looks more like a not that there's anything wrong with like Steak and Shake, but it's got like a little more of that like checkered floor vibe, and it almost
kind of
looks,
a dated look.
Yeah, it almost looks like a little more like a, I don't know, like a Red Robin or like a Fridays or something in there. They like play up like the Americana aspect of it. And don't get me wrong, the food there is fantastic. They're like neck and neck. If I remember correctly, I think I like the chili, the bun, and the overall Coney better at Lafayette. But the actual hot dog itself, I want to say, is better at American because it's like a little girthier dog.
For me, a girthy dog.
Exactly. But they're both great. But yeah, I do happen to like the divier one. But I did see a couple weeks ago that there was a story that Lafayette was temporarily closed due to like a health code violation, which does not at all surprise me. But yeah, that definitely plays into what we were just talking about.
It's it's definitely something I feel like they played up in How I Met Your Mother with the pizza place that I'm blanking on the name of.
Oh yeah, yeah, the one that was by their college, right?
I know it was in Chicago. I don't remember if it was by their college. I think they took road trips to get there, so I don't think it was.
Yeah. I reference that episode a lot because, Marshall and Ted go back and get like food poisoning.
Yeah.
And Marshall's like grabbing his stomach because he's in so much pain. And at one point he's like, oh, cut it out of me. And like whenever I've got any sort of stomach pain or I'm just incredibly full, cut it out of me is my go-to response because of that.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, they definitely do play up that how like the pizza was so good. And then I think they even do the thing where they have like they keep like downgrading their rating from like the health department like throughout the episode.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like I think they do like a flashback and it's maybe like a B+, and then like by the end it's like a D.
Oh, classic.
So good. Oh.
But yeah, I don't there's like a few bakeries in town that I have yet to like check out. I know there's one place that has good donuts. I've never been there myself. My boss has brought in those donuts sometimes, but I have yet to like peruse the bakery scene around here.
I don't know if you've got one near you. I think it was like most restaurants or bakeries that have multiple locations. But I want to say their first location was in like Portland, maybe. But have you been to Voodoo Donuts?
We do have one of those here, and they do make good donuts.
Okay. Yeah, I know they like blew up in popularity. I think because their maple bacon donut I think that might have been like what kind of like put them on the map. But yeah, I remember when we worked at World Market, we had a bunch of beers from Rogue, which is also out of Oregon. And they like teamed up and they would do like for like, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 years, they did like a voodoo donut flavor based on like one of their donuts.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Their first one was the maple bacon, which was actually pretty good. It's not one of those things where I would drink it all the time, but I wouldn't mind drinking it again now that it's been like a few years since I had it. It's good for like a glass, every couple of years, I guess.
I gotcha.
Yeah, wow. Kind of speaking of that, I remember you might not remember us talking about it specifically, but at one point I had told you that I had a beer called Donut Stop Believing that was like a donut ale. I
do remember this discussion, yeah. Man, you be sucking down those donut beers, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently that's like my jam. But they were the ones who also did that like cafe disco beer. But this was, let's see, what day was this? This was 2 weekends ago. It was October 1st. I was at the store and I wasn't even planning on buying beer, but they sucked me in with like the name and artwork of the beer. This was also another donut beer called, it's like an apple fritter donut ale, and it's called Donut Fear the Fritter. And it's got like...
Don't Fear the Reaper, got it.
Yeah, and it's got like a cartoon that very much is supposed to be Will Ferrell from the cowbell skit on SNL. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
I don't think I am, actually.
What?
Doesn't ring any bells.
Oh my god.
Doesn't ring any cowbells.
Oh, pun. God, that's like a classic 90s skit. I'll have to
to be fair, I'm not that familiar with SNL. I don't really like it that much.
That's fair.
But at the same time, I have always enjoyed older SNL. It's mostly just modern SNL that has me turned off to it.
I'm the same way. In that skit, Will Ferrell he's like part of a band, and they're like they start playing "Don't Fear the Reaper," and Christopher Walken is like their producer, and he keeps like stepping into the recording booth, and he's like, "It needs more cowbell." And Will Ferrell's got this cowbell, and he's just like wailing on this thing.
You know, I've heard people reference this, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah. And Will Ferrell's like banging on it, and he's got this shirt that's like a little too small, and Will Ferrell's kind of got like a little bit of a gut, and like the more he bangs on it, his shirt keeps like riding up. And at one point, Christopher Walken walks in, and he says,
he's like, "Hey, I'm Christopher Walken here."
Pretty much. He says, I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. That's my best Walken I got.
I mean, no one can really do a good Walken impression. He just has a weird cadence.
Yeah. But looking on the front of the can, it's got like Will Ferrell in like a very similar shirt that's like riding up, and on the side of the can it says, "I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more fritter."
I like that.
Yeah, and that the other like famous thing about that skit is it's like one of the few skits where like the actors like they break and they start laughing like while they're trying to like do the live skit, which I think totally makes skits better.
It really does. Like when the improv breaks and they just can't do it anymore, like it adds so much to it.
Yeah. So that's a classic, but I'm definitely gonna need to send that to you like as soon as we're done, because you really got to check that out. That's a great
I was doing some bit on stream the other day, and I'm blanking on what the fuck it actually was, but I had one of those moments where I was really committed to the bit, but I just couldn't do it, and I started laughing at myself.
Nice. I feel like it's more genuine that way.
I mean, like, I feel like it's a common thing among people doing creative stuff to not enjoy their own work. Like, me, I'm so hard on myself and my own stuff, even though, the people who watch my stuff are always like, this is fucking fantastic, So I feel like it's kind of the same way with like comedians. Like a lot of comedians probably don't find their own work all that funny. And so when they're in the middle of doing like improv and they just can't contain themselves, it's like, okay, this is really good because they're making themselves laugh.
Yeah. And the other thing too, we see so much stuff that's, it's pre-recorded. So if they do start laughing, like you don't see that unless you watch like outtakes or like the gag reel or whatever. But like occasionally on like TV shows, because like they don't have the budget of like blockbuster films to do like unlimited takes. So occasionally you'll see like a character like smirk and the camera will like cut away real quick. And I always like to catch that because I'm like, damn, they must have really thought that was fucking funny because that's like the best take they could get. So I think I always look for that when I'm watching any sort of like comedic TV show. But I know with SNL, like Lorne Michaels, like the head, I don't know, producer, writer. I think he does everything with SNL. It's like kind of famous that he gets like annoyed when characters break during the skits because it's like not professional.
Right.
But yeah, I like it. I think it kind of plays into like going with what you were saying, like, you know, the actors must think it's really funny if they start laughing. But it does the thing for me where like they find it funny, so I find it funnier.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's a lot funnier when like when they can't contain themselves. It makes it even harder for you to contain yourself. I definitely feel that.
Yeah. And the same goes for like watching any sort of comedy with like in like a group with like either with a group of people or like in a movie theater, because someone's bound to start laughing at a joke. And even if you're like, it was kind of funny, once other people start laughing, it like makes you laugh. It's, you know, it's contagious.
It absolutely is a thing. And like genuinely, like in terms of like entertainers, I think like legitimately like an actual like strength you can have as like a comedian or just someone working in like a comedic medium is having an entertaining laugh, right? Like they have a funny way that they laugh, or the way they laugh is just very genuine, whatever it may be. Because like there's streamers that I watch and there's like clips of them floating around where like they'll make a joke that they themselves find really funny, and I'm sitting there like, this joke is not funny. What is funny is how hard they made themselves laugh with it.
Right.
Because like they have an extremely contagious laughter, and so it's just funny to watch them laugh.
Yeah, for sure. Our old coworker Jeff and I disagreed on this, and I'll agree with him that going to the movie theater to see an action movie is great. But he was like, I only go to the theater to see like an action or like an epic drama. He's like, I would never go see a comedy. He's like, I feel like that's a waste. I would just watch it on TV at a later point. Now, as someone who I
would disagree with that too. Like the theater is an experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like beyond just watching the movie.
Yeah. And like I very infrequently go to the movie theater. It's been since like before the pandemic started the last time I went to the movie theater. And it was an action movie. Bradley and I went to go see what was it called? Damn it. It's a fucking war movie.
1918.
I think
1918.
I think it was 1918. God, why?
I never saw it. I know I heard people talking about it.
Maybe it is 1917. Fuck. God, why can I not remember? It's just a fucking year. But anyway, that was cool. That was a good movie. It was a good movie to see in theaters. Everything looked really cool. Especially the way it was filmed. It is 1917. You were right.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, I have previously liked to go see comedies specifically for that, that
experience of like being with a crowd and watching something funny.
Yeah, because other than that, like a movie may be incredibly funny, but if I'm watching it like alone, like it has to be really funny or like hit me just the right way if it's going to make me like audibly laugh while I'm by myself.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm the same way.
So I think for me, comedies are one of the best things to go see in a movie theater. I
agree with you. It's just one of those things where like I can't really evaluate a comedy based on my theater watching experience, because in that environment, things that I might not find funny become funny because of the people around me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you definitely should give it another watch later on. Not in that environment, but But yeah, it at least gives you that experience that you don't normally get from watching a movie, even with like a friend or two. Like, you need that group.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I don't even remember how we got there, but that's how we got there.
No fucking clue. Who knows?
Oh, that's good. Go ahead.
You want to hear about? I have been on, as I mentioned in a previous episode, I've been on a bit of a job hunt.
Yes.
And I had a very, very interesting experience with a prospective employer.
Okay.
So the first thing, like, immediately this was a little bit weird, and immediately I was a little bit skeptical of it, but I am desperate, so I figured I'd follow through with it anyway. They texted me saying they wanted to interview me, and then I needed to supply my email so I could so that they could contact me. And I'm like, why would, like, if you're looking at my job website profiles, they're gonna have both my phone number and my email, so will my resume. So this is weird.
Okay.
I couldn't remember the name of the place that was contacting me, and to be fair, I'd been applying for a lot of jobs, so, you know, not too shocking that I wouldn't remember them, but it was like, it didn't sound familiar at all. So I did what they asked. I emailed them, and then they asked me to set up a Microsoft Teams account so that I could contact them and do the email and stuff. And they sent me like an info document about like the job I was being interviewed for, and it was a video editor job like I'd been applying for.
Yeah.
And the thing that immediately seemed really sus was that the job was offering $55 an hour as payment, which is insane.
Okay.
That's not an unfounded amount for like a professional editor, but for someone with my kind of experience to be offered a job like that, that's absurd.
That does seem like a pretty substantial amount, but
again, desperate, and as far as I could tell so far, there wasn't any reason for me to, you know, think there's anything weird about this.
Okay.
I'm a new age person. I've used the internet a lot of my life. I'm pretty good at sussing out scams. There wasn't anything that immediately made this feel like a scam other than the weirdness of it.
Okay.
So I contacted them, and they were basically like, okay, we're going to do this whole interview process through Microsoft Teams. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to get in a call with somebody. I was wrong. What they did was they literally sent me interview questions, and I would respond to them through text.
Weird.
Which was odd. But to be fair, the questions were relevant to the job being offered. They were video editing questions. Decently superficial video editing questions, but video editing questions.
Okay.
And throughout this whole experience, the person I was contacting wasn't using fantastic grammar, which is, again, like, kind of a red flag, but not enough of one that I'm going to immediately like be turned off by it, because some people just don't have a great grasp of the language, and that's totally fine. Yeah. I'm not going to be like, you can't speak the language, I'm not working for you, you know?
Right.
And they seemed really into the answers to my questions, and they were responsive to like the questions that I asked. And at the end of the interview, I say quote unquote interview because it was just like a text exchange again. They asked if I had any questions, and I was kind of like, yeah. What are the next steps for this interview? You know, am I going to get to like talk to someone on a phone at some point? Because I'm trying to suss out just what exactly this is at this point. And they were kind of like, yeah, we'll get to that if you make it to the next part of the interview stage. And again, they're not asking anything of me. And mind you, this isn't like a quick thing. Like this entire, like they asked me a lot of questions going through like the whole like contacting them thing, and like them contacting me first. Like that was over the course of a couple days. Like, if this is a scam, they have to be asking for a lot from me because they're putting in a lot of work here.
Okay, yeah.
And I did some research on this company that was contacting me, and it was like a legit like video production company. And I kind of cross-referenced some of the things they said with some of the things that were being said about the company on Glassdoor, because I looked them up to like find out if this is just like a massive scam or something like that. And it's a real production company that people have worked for. You know, they don't have glowing reviews. A lot of people are kind of like, you know, it's great if you don't have experience, but I would call it like a good long-term position. And I'm like, well, I need experience, so I'll take it.
Right.
One thing that was mentioned throughout a ton of the, you know, reviews on Glassdoor was that this company only does 4-day work weeks.
Okay.
And one of the documents that they sent me for info about the company mentioned only working 30 hours a week, which isn't exactly 4 days of work, but it's close. So that, again, added a little bit of credence to what they were saying. And I was kind of like, okay, this might be legit.
Yeah.
But the entire time I'm like, if this is legit, if this is legitimately a job offer, they could not have gone about this in a more like strange, suspicious way. Like texting me unsolicited, doing everything over Microsoft Teams. I haven't actually spoken to a human on the phone once yet. The whole thing is just extremely strange. And like the fact that their hiring manager does have such poor grammar. Again, I'm not going to hold like anyone to that too much, but it does seem odd. If you're going to do a bunch of stuff over text, you want to make sure you have someone who's going to, you know, at least be able to cross, what's the word I'm looking for? Proofread the work, I feel like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, like, you know, this is like a smaller company. This is, I'm used to working for like mega corporations. I'm not used to working for like a 30-person team video production company, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they just have weird hiring practices, and, you know, if I get this job, I can offer them some feedback. Like, this all seems really suspicious. If you have like a really low turnover rate in terms of like contacting people versus them responding to you, this might be why kind of thing. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it right now. So I'm still just going along with it, but I'm also being careful, right? Like whenever they ask me questions about certain things, like I'm not giving them away like personal information. Like when they asked me my name, I didn't even give my full name. I kept that to myself. If they had asked for a phone number, I probably would have just started dodging them, but they never did. They already have my own phone number somehow, so I guess that kind of invalidates that. But the point is, like, I'm not going to give them my social security number like a lot of applications ask for, which is already a strange ask for applications, I feel like, but I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually like a later in the process thing, so they can run like a background check.
I have had jobs that ask for it up front, which is very strange, and I always like make sure, like, if I see that in an application process, I always make sure to like check that this is a legit website that I'm on, that this is a legit company I'm applying to, kind of thing. But I have seen it, and it's always very weird, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so finally, like, they're like, okay, your interview questions were good. We want to give you a chance to like a final interview. You know, we want you to talk to like one of our leaders and like see if you'd be a good fit for our team. And I'm like, all right, great. I'll finally get to talk to somebody, maybe get a little bit of proof that this is like an actual offer kind of thing. You know, be able to talk one-on-one with somebody. This is great. This is exactly what I was hoping to eventually get.
Yeah.
So they set up a time. They're like, okay, when are you free? I'm like, okay, these are my work hours. This is when I'm like able to get off of work. And they told me the guy who'd be calling me was a guy named Juan. I don't remember the last name. Doesn't matter. It was a Spanish it was like a Spanish last name. And I get a phone call, and the guy I'm talking to has a distinctly Indian accent.
Oh no.
And I'm like, I don't know how common Spanish names are in Indian families or in Indian countries, or maybe this is somebody who, a Spanish family who grew up in India, something like that, but it doesn't seem very usual, to say the least.
Right.
So Juan and I have a conversation. His English is not great. It's, again, noticeable. Like, he doesn't have a great grasp on the language. And again, like this is, final interview kind of thing. You're offering someone a job for $55 an hour. This is, I'm assuming like a decent like position. You want someone who's really going to know their stuff. But a lot of his questions were pretty superficial. Like even more so than the initial interview questions.
Oh no.
And, when you finish a final interview, usually what they tell you is like, okay, we'll call you back when we made a final decision, right?
Yep.
He just offered me a job on the spot. He was like, you got a great interview. This was a great talk with you. I'd like to offer you a job and get you started. And at this point, I'm 100% sold that this is somehow a scam. But I'm curious as to how, because at this point, like I still haven't been asked a thing. I still haven't been like asked for any of my personal information, credit card info, nothing like that. So I'm trying to figure out like what the deal is, but I 100% don't believe I've actually been offered a job. So I just go along with it and I'm like, all right, awesome, great, thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
And we end this call and at no point does he ask me like when I can start. He's just like running under the assumption that I can start right away, which, in reality, I would have stopped him and been like, I want to give it 2 weeks at my current job. I'm not going to be one of those people.
Yeah.
So, 100% sold this is somehow a scam at this point. And he's like, okay. And the like hiring person I was talking to initially sends me a message and is like, congratulations on getting the job. We need to connect you with your hiring manager. You'll have a week of training and then we'll get you set up. And I think I figured out finally what their play was, what their scam was.
Okay.
Something that they outlined as part of like the hiring process is that for the job, I needed to have a second phone specifically for work, which is not uncommon.
Right.
But they specified that it needed to be an iPhone.
Okay.
And
that's also not uncommon.
Not uncommon at all. But it needed to be an iPhone. I needed to buy it through them and their Verizon like connection for like reduced rates. That's not illogical.
Right.
Here's where it is though.
Okay.
They needed me to buy the phone with my own money, which they would then reimburse.
Yeah.
So that's the scam. Give us $1,000+ to buy an iPhone for your job and we'll pay you back.
Yeah, I mean, that would have even been like acceptable if they were like, yeah, you have to have an iPhone. We'll reimburse you if you were able to like buy it elsewhere.
Right, but since it was through like their Verizon partnership, it's like, okay.
Yeah, because for my company, to run our operating system, you need to have iOS, either like an iPhone or an iPad. And they're like, well, if you don't have one or if you need to upgrade, we'll give you like X amount for reimbursement. You just have to like show us like a receipt so we know, just as proof that you actually like spent this money and you're not just trying to like get money out of us. So like that could potentially... That makes
sense. Like if that was what they told me, I'd be totally like, all right, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, but when they're
for me to need to buy it through them.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is without being sent like a formal job offer or anything. I didn't even like pretend to make a document for that.
Yeah, and the other thing is you would think that they would offer you some sort of like, you can either buy it now or we can like deduct it from your paycheck or something like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a really interesting saga. From the very beginning, I didn't think it was real because I'm like, $55 a month would be too good to be true, especially for someone, lacking in proper experience like me. I'm not unaware of that limitation of mine on my resume. I'm painfully aware of it. But I went along with it because I was like, if this is legit, this could be really good. And if it isn't, it'll be interesting. But like, it's just crazy to me how much time they wasted trying to get me. Cause this was like over the course of several days. Like this was not like a quick thing over the course of like a single day. This was like several days of back and forth, several days of talking. They really put a lot of work into this scam and made it really specific too. Like they found like a very specific target audience of video editors. They like put enough research in to like find a company and make sure that they like had a decent understanding of what the company did and what their practices were like. Like they put a lot of work into this.
Yeah.
For it to not fucking work.
Yeah, they went long play on that. I'm sure they actually probably do reasonably well with that scam.
They probably do. They probably get a good number of people with it, especially like older people who aren't used to scams like me.
Right. Damn. Well, that's an interesting one.
Didn't get a job, but I did get an interesting story.
Yeah, it's a good story. That reminds me of that like pyramid scheme story that I know I told at some point about. Yeah, like the sports marketing job that gave me like multiple interviews, and then it turned out to be selling coupon books door to door to benefit wheelchair basketball.
Man, you just reminded me of another story I got to tell, but we'll hold that off for next episode. Just remind me to tell it.
All right. Man.
But yeah, interesting shit.
Yeah, and we got to remember next time we got to do more Would You Rather. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. But we ran out of time, so do not worry. Well, tune in.
Oh, we never said, but welcome to episode 83 of Breakroom Nachos. Now go fuck yourself.